So now that we've created this freight bill, we have 2 extra stops. That means we have 3 stops in total. AB is our third stop, AA is our second stop, and our parent bill is just the number 58. So now at any time, if you need to reference this and come back into customer service, you can find it by clicking on these little glasses and then looking for it under freight bill number. And then it's going to bring you to the bill. You can also look for it with the trace number, which is nice. So if a customer calls and they're like, hey, I need to look for this trace number, or to look for they might call it trip number, it'll bring you straight back to this load as well. It has all the information, and it'll bring you right back to the customer service. So now we're going to go check it out from a dispatch perspective, and you can get to dispatch one of 2 ways. One, by clicking on this little button here, or 2, by heading back to our Truckmate menu and going to Truckload and to Truckload Dispatch. It's going to ask you if you want to run it, and we sure do. It's going to open up our dispatch page now, and the first time you open it, it might have the tab over like this or something. All you have to do is move it over one time to see the way that you want to see it. You know, maybe you don't even care about power units for now, or maybe you want it to look like this. It'll kind of look the way that you want to see it. So now we're in our dispatch area, and this is exactly how it's going to look. Up here we have all of our drivers, and here we have all of our power units, trailers, miscellaneous. I'm going to actually get rid of these tabs before too long, so you probably won't be seeing them at the time of this video. All we're really concerned about is our drivers, our power units, and our trailers. This little blue, anywhere you see a blue name, it means that there's a filter available. So what we can do is right click on it, and we can see that we can search it by terminal. The terminals are labeled first by RANs, then by state, then by city. So for example, RANs Iowa Grinnell, RANs Ohio Mount Vernon, RANs Pennsylvania Ringtown, you get the point. If you're looking just for company-owned employees for drivers here, that's where we're going to find that, and then owner-operators are here. So we're just going to leave the filter off for now. Just right-click it, and you can clear the filter if you were to add one. Let's say we did add one. We can just right-click and clear the filter. So the same thing goes for power units. If you right-click on it, you can go by terminal as well and see the different power units that are here. What we're going to focus on is the middle part, which is the available freight bills. Now, these are all the bills that were created in customer service like we just did, and they're just sitting here waiting for action to be taken upon them. Now, it's a good idea to keep our pickup by and our delivery date populated in that customer service so that when our dispatchers come here, they can see, the real date and time. For example, when we were adding these in for practice, we never put the right dates and times in, so now they're all kittywampus and a little bit past due. So that's something important to remember, and it keeps us more efficient and more up to date. So they are in order of their T number, their freight bill number, like we saw in customer service, and they're available to go. Same with our drivers. We have their statuses here. If they're dispatched, their status will be dispatched instead of assigned. These have been on a couple different trips already because we've been practicing with them. But for what we're going to do now is we're going to head down to the last freight bill, which is the one that we did. Oh, look at that. Somebody else was doing one too, so that's good. We're practicing. So ours was actually number 58, and it has 2 children bill, AA and AB. 58 is our first stop, second stop, and third stop. So what we're going to do now is we're going to pretend that it's time to assign this to a real driver. We know we can schedule ahead of time and give the driver the information that they need to complete the trip. So what we're going to do now is double click, and it's going to say, do you want to assign freight bill number a new trip, or do you want to continue it to 42? So trip 42 is already dispatched down here. So it's asking, do you want it to add to trip 42? No, we want it to be a brand new trip. So we'll say new trip here. And then it's also asking, those extra stops that you have, do you want them to come with this one as well? And yes, we do. So yes to all. Now you notice it has been put down into the trip area, and now it's prepared to receive a driver, a power unit, and a trailer. Now really quick here, I'm going to change the design of this page because I'm missing a couple buttons that I want you guys to, you're going to have them on yours, so I want my screen to look the same. So just give me 1 second. This isn't something that you'll have to worry about ever. It's just like a one-time deal for me. But I do want to match you guys as much as possible so that you can see exactly what I'm doing. Alright, it's going to look more similar to this. You're going to have these 3 buttons here. So we'll kind of just go with this for now. So our trip number down here is number 50. And our bill number is still the same T number. And we can now access, if we were to look in our, this is customer service, so I'll click on that. If we were to look for trip number 50, let's say a driver called and said, hey, I'm on trip number 50, not really sure where to go next. We can come into customer service and we can look by 3 different ways now. First, that trace number that our customer gave us. Second off, we can look for trip number, and third, we can look for the freight bill number. And it's going to bring us straight back to the bill that we created that this is on. So 50 shows us it's a JELD-WIN load. The origins in JELD-WIN, its destinations are these 2 places. And then we can sorry, I should have clicked on that. So we can press OK, and it's going to bring us to that bill. So that's really nice. And now it's just sitting here waiting for a driver to be added to it in a power unit and a trailer. So until you're ready to assign a driver to it, it's just going to sit here. And so let's actually do that. Let's assign a driver to it. If we have an available driver, they're going to be obviously in this area here, and we can put availability. Let's actually pick a driver from our Ladysmith location because this is a Ladysmith load. And if it's not a driver from a Ladysmith location, it's actually going to give you a little bit of an error for the power unit, the trailer, and the driver. So we're going to want to keep that pretty standard. We'll do Albert Gordon is pending, and these people are already on their trips. So let's see if we can find one. Okay, Dale Topinka. Let's add him to the trip. Great. You make sure this arrow is on the trip. Either click anywhere on it, or if you were to click down on a different trip, it's going to assign the driver to that trip. We want it to be for this trip, so make sure the arrow is pointed to it. Now, our power unit and trailers, we do want to make sure that they are in the right location. If they're not in Ladysmith, what's going to happen is we're going to get an error telling us that it's not going to. Actually, I'll show you. If I were to, it might let me do it because I'm actually on the admin. Let's see. Okay, so something's going to pop up and it's not going to let you do it. This one's saying that we are missing the items, but for your sake, make sure the power unit says it's either in Ladysmith here, so we can assign that one. And if it's not in Ladysmith, let's see what we can find. Let's look for a trailer that's actually not in Ladysmith. Let's say this location of this trailer is actually in Ladysmith. What we're going to do is reposition it. We're going to put the zone. So our zone is our zip code 54848 for Ladysmith. And then we're going to reposition. So it's asking, okay, are you moving this trailer? Has this trailer moved? Trip is missing the following. Yeah, that's fine. We'll say that's fine. We'll go, okay. So now the trailer is moved to Ladysmith, and it can be assigned to Ladysmith. So we double click on it, and it populates in our trailer. If, like I said, if you were to dispatch this trip, it would not allow you to dispatch it if it was more than 500 miles away, because it's saying you're deadheading a crazy amount of miles. That doesn't make any sense. So that's a good thing for us. So we just reposition it at any time that it's true. Of course. And now we can optimize the trip. So let's click optimize, and it's going to show us that we're picking up 3 things from Geldwin and delivering to 3 different locations. Now what we'll do is we will calculate each of this little calculator button calculates the legs, and it'll split it up into 3 stops. So it's picking up at Geldwin. All 3 items are being picked up from Geldwin. Delivery 1, 58, delivery 2, AA, delivery 3, AB. Now, if these were in different order, if you need them to be in a different order for whatever reason, all you have to do is grab it and drag it. So when you see that icon, the little like caution sign, it means it's not dragging. When you see the paper sign, then you can drop it. So now our order is 58, AB, and then AA. So you can move these around as you need to. We're just going to leave it in order for now. I'm going to show you an example in a couple tutorials how or why that would happen. But for now, we're just going to leave them in order, and then we're going to press OK. Now you notice that it actually split up. I'm going to move this up if I can. Maybe not. Alright, fine. Alright, whatever. So now you notice it's split it up into 3 separate lines, and it's split up, the current location is Hawkins. It's going to this leg to Champion, or Champagne, or wherever you want to call it. I know I always butcher the names. And then it's going, from leg to leg, leg to leg, leg to leg. Great. Now, this will sit here. It will not be dispatched until the driver is sitting in his truck and he's ready to go. What we can also do is print the manifest here and give it to the driver if we need to, so he can see exactly where he's going. We'll keep that closed for now, though. But good thing to point out is we do not do anything with it now. If the driver is not going to be dispatched for the next 5 days, we don't touch it. Let's say he's actually in his truck and he's ready to go. What we're going to do now is double-click. It's going to change his status to dispatched, and that'll be his new status. Right now he's assigned, but when we change it to dispatched, this status will change to dispatched. Now, in the future, in the perfect world, we're going to have mobile comm, so when the driver is prepared to go, he's going to have a little thing that pops up in his screen, and it's going to ask him, "Are you ready to go?" And he's going to say, "Yeah, let's go." But for the time being, until we have trained our drivers, we have to do it on our own. So we'll dispatch him. Our status is now green for dispatch, and he's on the first leg of his trip to go pick up the windows from Hawkins. So he's dispatched. When he arrives, we double-click, and he arrived at the shipper, so he's arriving to pick up the goods. So we're going to update his status. This is something he will do in the future, hopefully. And the first leg of his trip is now complete, so it'll cross off. You can click literally anywhere on this trip part to update his status, but we're going to update it now, and he's departing the shipper, so he'll press that in his little truck. He'll press that button. He'll be on his way. Now he's arrived at the consignee. So the first consignee he's arrived at, we're going to update his status. When he leaves the consignee, it says depart consignee, and we update his status one more time. Now you see that, oh, we still have one more to go. Arrived at the next consignee, and we'll depart. Great. Okay, let's just take a look at this here. Now we notice that our first 2 parts of the trip are finished, and the remaining part is from Elmhurst to Elk Grove Village. So, once again, we arrived at the consignee, and after we depart the consignee, it disappears. The trip is over, he's finished, and now we will not see it anymore on the bottom because it's done. The only place we'll see it now is in trip envelope processing, but that's something for another video. So that's the basics of just simple dispatching. I know that there's a million different cases that can happen, and I'm going to do my best to explain each case, but I'm going to keep this video as short as possible just with the basics. Alrighty, see you on the next video.